Russian President Vladimir Putin praised the positive dynamic of his ongoing invasion of Ukraine on Sunday after a Russian missile strike killed 23 people in a Dnipro apartment building. The Dnipro attack was part of a wave of missile strikes Russia launched into Ukraine this weekend. First responders spent hours searching through the rubble of the 9-story apartment building destroyed in the strike. In all, Russia fired 30 missiles targeting Dnipro and other major cities, but Ukrainian forces shot down more than 20 of them mid-flight. Russian President Vladimir Putin chairs a meeting on the country's transport industry via a video link in Sochi, Russia, May 24, 2022. Russian missile strikes battered Ukraine, including in major cities like Kyiv, Kharkiv and Lviv on December 29, leaving at least 5 people injured and cutting electricity in the west. Ukrainian Air Force spokesman Yuri Ihnat told Ukrainian media that the missiles most likely flew on a ballistic trajectory from north of Ukraine. He stated that Ukrainian forces currently have no method of shooting down such missiles, at least not until operators have been trained in the use of U.S. Patriot missiles, which President Biden's administration is poised to deliver next week. Russian President Vladimir Putin was so worried about a conflict with the West that he basically wound up creating one by proxy through his unprovoked invasion of Ukraine, a former U.S. Army general said. Putin, who first ascended to the presidency in 1999, has had a long-standing fear about a coming war with the West, and that worry encouraged him to start that war in a battle that he thought he could win, retired U.S. Army Brig General Kevin Ryan told Insider on Wednesday, pointing to the war in Ukraine. Nearly 10 months ago, Putin chose to wage war in Ukraine in part with the mindset that NATO and the US would in turn be afraid of Russia after it quickly achieved victory over the Eastern European country as planned, he said. Putin suffered a major setback in the early days of the war when Russian troops, which greatly outnumbered and outgunned Ukraine's military, failed to seize the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv. Ukraine, aided by the US and the West through billions of dollars worth of weapons and equipment, has managed to defend itself from Moscow's aggression and even successfully launched a stunning counteroffensive last year, forcing Russian troops to give up large swaths of occupied territory. Ukraine has put up a fierce defense, which is backed by a continuous flow of Western weapons and equipment, which now includes armored vehicles and could soon include tanks. In addition to supplying Ukraine with weapons and equipment, Western nations have hit Russia with severe economic sanctions as punishment for its invasion of Ukraine, choking its economy. At least 23 people have died after a Russian missile strike destroyed an apartment block in Dnipro, central Ukraine. The building was hit by a Russian Kh-22 missile, a Soviet-era anti-ship missile, which Ukraine has described as an aircraft carrier killer. Confirming the death toll on Telegram, Mykola Lukashuk, head of the Dnipro Regional Council, said, "Burn in hell, Russian murderers." At least 72 people were wounded and 43 people were reported missing, according to the city government, per The Independent. This missile with a 950 kilograms, 2,000-pound, warhead, which is called an aircraft carrier killer, is designed to destroy aircraft carrier groups at sea. It can be equipped with a nuclear element. And such a missile was used to hit a densely populated city. There is no explanation or justification for this terrorist act, said Yuri Ihnat, spokesperson for the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, per Ukrinform. The Ukrainian military does not currently have the advanced weaponry needed to shoot down the long-range Kh-22 missiles, with Mykola Olszczuk, commander of the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, according to a Newsweek report. He said, since the beginning of Russian military aggression on Ukraine, more than 210 missiles of this type have been launched. None of them are knocked down by air defense equipment. It has been reported that the U.S. has agreed to supply a single Patriot battery to Ukraine. Up to 100 Ukrainian soldiers are due to undergo training on the missile systems at Fort Sill in Oklahoma, starting next week, reported the BBC. The attack on the apartment block comes in a new surge of Russian violence over the last week, which has targeted civilians and energy infrastructure. The Russian strikes have hit critical infrastructure across the country, with Ukraine's energy minister warning of difficult days ahead with damaged electricity, running water, and heating supplies, per Reuters. Much of the fighting over the past few days has been focused in Soledar, where Russian troops have claimed they've captured the town. The death toll from a Russian missile strike in the southeastern city of Dnipro rose to 30 on Sunday as first responders picked through the rubble of an apartment building looking for survivors and bodies. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said at least 73 people were injured Saturday when the explosions smashed through all 9 floors of the building that housed an estimated 1,700 people. By Sunday afternoon, 39 people had been rescued and the city government in Dnipro said 43 people were reported missing. More than 20 of the 30 missiles launched toward Ukrainian targets were shot down, Zelensky said. The attacks also targeted the capital, Kyiv, and the northeastern city of Kharkiv. Energy infrastructure again took a pounding, a common theme for Russian attacks in recent months. Russian President Vladimir Putin said his special military operation is going according to plan. In an interview with the Rossiya 1 TV, he said, "The dynamics are positive. Everything is developing within the plan of the Defense Ministry and the General Staff." On Sunday, Russian forces attacked a residential area in the southern Ukrainian city of Kherson, wounding 2 people, Regional Governor Yaroslav Yanushevich said in a Telegram post. Russia's defense ministry said Sunday that it achieved its goal in Saturday's strikes. It said missiles were fired on the military command and control system of Ukraine and related energy facilities, and did not mention residential strikes and deaths. Authorities in Moldova said Sunday that specialist teams have carried out controlled detonations of explosives that were discovered in parts of rocket debris that border officials found in a northern village near the country's border with Ukraine. 3 Russian soldiers were killed and 15 injured in a munitions explosion in the village of Tonenkoy in Russia's southern Belgorod region, state-run TASS reported Sunday. The outlet said a preliminary probe indicated the blast was likely caused by munitions mishandling. Russia's REN TV said the blast occurred at a community center at or near a military base after a soldier mishandled a hand grenade, causing a fire. The TV station said the victims were new draftees. 15 people were evacuated from nearby homes in Belgorod, a city of 340,000 about 25 miles north of the Ukraine border. The British Defense Ministry said it will begin training thousands of new volunteer recruits who have joined the armed forces of Ukraine with little to no previous military experience. The goal is to teach skills required to survive and be effective in frontline combat, the ministry said in a statement. The course, which is based on training provided to the UK Army Reserve Infantry, will take place over a minimum of 5 weeks in Britain. It will provide the soldiers with instruction on weapons handling, offensive and defensive tactics, rules of armed conflict, range activity and marksmanship, patrol techniques, battlefield first aid and cybersecurity awareness. Ukraine's allies have provided more than 4,000 armored vehicles, artillery pieces, aircraft and other weapon systems to help Kyiv fight Russia, and now NATO's most powerful members are sending more lethal arms. After months of caution, the UK said on Saturday it would provide Kyiv with Challenger 2s, among NATO's most powerful top-shelf main battle tanks. That followed announcements from France, the US and Germany that they would provide Kyiv with fighting vehicles and has raised pressure on governments to give Ukraine more of the alliance's best armored vehicles designed to destroy other tanks and take back territory from an enemy. Here is a breakdown of some of the main systems that Ukraine has received, according to Oryx, a Dutch open-source defense analysis website, as well as announcements from Ukraine's allies. 410 Soviet-era tanks delivered by NATO members in former communist bloc, including Poland, Czech Republic and Slovenia. The UK pledged to send Challenger 2s to Ukraine, the first time a Western country will have provided Ukraine with modern main battle tanks to fight Russian forces. The Sun newspaper said 12 would be sent in at least 2 shipments, although the UK government didn't confirm the number. 300 in all, including 250 Soviet-designed IFVs from former communist states. In a first, France announced last week it will deliver an unspecified number of AMX-10 RC-wheeled tank destroyers. The US and Germany said they will provide 50 and 40 Bradley and Marder fighting vehicles, respectively. IFVs can transport troops and provide close attack support, including against enemy tanks. David Perkins, a retired US 4-star general, said it would be more than a match for the T-72s that make up the bulk of Russia's tank fleet. 1,100 in all, including 300 M113 troop carriers and 250 minutes and 117 seconds. More than 160 US-made M113s from 7 other countries including the UK, Lithuania, Australia, Germany, Denmark, Portugal and Spain. Several hundred other vehicles, including armored medical treatment centers. About 925 in all, including 440 US M1224 Max Pros. These vehicles are similar to APCs but are specifically designed with angled hulls to protect occupants against mines and improvised explosive devices. More than 1,540, including 1,250 US-made high-mobility multipurpose wheeled vehicles, or Humvees. These wheeled personnel carriers, usually armored, move soldiers around the battlefield in attack, reconnaissance, and patrol roles. 300 towed howitzers. Of those, more than 210 155mm M777S and 72 105mm howitzers from the U.S. 400-plus pieces of self-propelled artillery, of which 180 is on order. Of those, more than 20 155mm howitzers from Britain, and 18 each from Poland, Germany and the U.S., among others. 95 in all. 38 high-mobility artillery rocket systems, known as HIMARS, made by US-based Lockheed Martin. 40 plus 122mm Communistera multiple rocket launchers from Poland and the Czech Republic. One of the most potent weapons for Ukraine, HIMARS allow for accurate, long-range strikes. Ukraine has used them mainly to destroy Russian ammunition dumps and command and control centers, as well as troop assembly points. 37 German Gepard self-propelled tanks. 8 US-made NASAMS missile batteries. 1 US and 1 German-provided Patriot missile battery. 6 Strela, 10 MIS rocket systems from the Czech Republic. 6 Stormer HVMs from the UK. A handful of other surface-to-air missile systems from Slovakia, Germany, Spain, France, and Poland. The German Gepards are self-propelled tanks that can shoot down low-flying cruise missiles, while the rocket systems can hit airborne targets at higher altitudes. In December, both the US and Germany said they would each donate a Patriot missile battery, the most advanced Western anti-aircraft system that can target shorter-range ballistic missiles of the type that could carry a tactical nuclear warhead. 14 Russian-made Su-25 ground attack jets purchased from Bulgaria by NATO states and delivered to Ukraine. 4 Su-25s from North Macedonia. 20 Russian-made Mi-17 helicopters originally destined for Afghanistan donated by the US. 11 Soviet-designed helicopters from the Czech Republic, Slovakia and Latvia. 3 UK Westland Sea Kings. 6 Russian-made Kamev helicopters from Portugal. 30-plus Bayraktar TB2 drones from Turkey, plus 1 each from Lithuania and Poland. Hundreds of US Switchblade loitering munition systems. 415 reconnaissance drones. Firefighters conduct search and rescue operation in the rubbles of a destroyed residential building after a Russian missile strike in Dnipro, Ukraine, on January 15. Russia could increase the age limit for army conscripts in an attempt to boost the size of its military. In a further sign of Moscow's difficulties in Ukraine, 30-year-olds could be signed up as part of the Russian Army's spring 2023 draft. According to the latest intelligence update by the UK's Ministry of Defence, Kardapolov said the move would be intended to enable Russia to hit its target of increasing the size of its military by 30%. The news came as Russia claimed it has taken a small Ukrainian settlement called Soldar in one of the bloodiest battles of the 10-month war. Ukraine says the town is still being hotly contested. The Prime Minister confirmed the move in a phone call today with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. A Downing Street spokesperson said Sunak and Zelensky had reflected on the current state of Russia's war in Ukraine, with successive Ukrainian victories pushing Russian troops back and compounding their military and morale issues. The death toll from a Russian missile strike on an apartment building in the southeastern Ukrainian city of Dnipro rose to 30 Sunday, the National Emergency Service reported as rescue workers scrambled to reach survivors in the rubble. Emergency crews worked through the frigid night and all day at the multi-story residential building, where officials said about 1,700 people lived before Saturday's strike. The reported death toll made it the deadliest attack in one place since a September 30 strike in Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia region, according to the Associated Press Frontline War Crimes Watch project. Russia fired 33 cruise missiles on Saturday, of which 21 were shot down, according to General Valery Zaluzny, the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. The missile that hit the apartment building was a Kh-22 launched from Russia's Kursk region, according to the military's Air Force Command, adding that Ukraine does not have a system capable of intercepting that type of weapon. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky reported that at least 73 people were wounded and 39 people had been rescued as of Sunday afternoon. The city government in Dnipro said 43 people were reported missing. Claiming responsibility for the missile strikes across Ukraine, Russia's defense ministry said Sunday that it achieved its goal. On Sunday, Russian forces attacked a residential area in the southern Ukrainian city of Kherson, regional governor Yaroslav Yanushevich said in a Telegram post. According to preliminary information, 2 people were wounded. Russia's renewed air attacks came as fierce fighting raged in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk province, where the Russian military has claimed it has control of the small salt mining town of Soledar, but Ukraine asserts that its troops are still fighting. If the Russian forces win full control of Soledar, it would allow them to inch closer to the bigger city of Bakhmut. The battle for Bakhmut has raged for months, causing substantial casualties on both sides. President Vladimir Putin said Russia's economy is in better shape than expected. Iran, which has been supplying Moscow with attack drones for months, will take delivery of Russian fighter jets by March, an Iranian lawmaker said. President Volodymyr Zelensky said fighting in eastern Ukraine's Donbas region will be fundamental to defeating Russia. The death toll at a 9-story apartment building in Dnipro climbed to 30 on Sunday after it was hit by what Ukraine's air command said was a Russian long-range anti-ship missile. The Dnipro strike was part of 2 waves on Saturday, mostly targeted at Ukraine's infrastructure. Missile and airstrikes were reported in locations including Kyiv, Kharkiv, Odessa, Kryvyi Rih, Dnipro, Vinnytsia. Russian forces launched S-300 and S-400 systems on a ballistic trajectory from Belarus, before later launching cruise missiles from air and sea. Over the past 24 hours, Russia launched the airstrikes and 57 missile strikes, and 69 strikes from rocket salvo systems, Ukraine's general staff said. Russia used 300/400 long-range anti-aircraft missiles to carry out missile strikes on Kyiv and other settlements of Ukraine, it said in a daily report, warning that there's still a threat of air and missile strikes throughout Ukraine. At least 7 were injured after Russian mass shelling in Kherson on Sunday, the region's governor said. Among the buildings shelled were an apartment complex and one where the Ukrainian Red Cross was located. The death toll from Russia's missile attack Saturday on an apartment building in Dnipro rose to 30, according to emergency services. At least 72 others were injured and rescue efforts continued on Sunday. Ukraine's Air Command said the building was hit by a Russian Kh-22, or X-22, long-range missile launched from the Kursk region and designed for use against aircraft carriers. Kremlin troops have fired more than 210 of the Kh-22 rockets since the start of the invasion, and Ukraine has no firepower capable of shooting down that type of missile, the Air Command said. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky signed a decree on Sunday imposing sanctions against almost 200 people of mostly Russian and Belarusian citizenship. It was the second round of sanctions announced this month. Bridget Brink, the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, said Russia was continuing a desperate assault on Ukraine's cities and people. Russia's defense ministry said on Sunday its forces had launched a wave of missile strikes against Ukrainian military and infrastructure sites the previous day. The ministry did not mention the city of Dnipro as a specific target of the strikes. Ukrainian authorities said more than 20 people were killed in a strike on an apartment complex in Dnipro on Saturday. The death toll from the strike on Dnipro was likely to climb higher on Sunday as rescue workers raced to pull survivors from the debris and authorities reported several dozen people still missing. Russia also said its troops had made progress towards the city of Bakhmut in Ukraine's Donetsk region, which has been the focus of Russian attacks for months. It said its troops had advanced towards the northern outskirts of the city. Russia reported its first major territorial gain in months last week, when it said its troops captured the town of Soledar, just a few kilometers north of Bakhmut, after months of brutal fighting for the small town. Ukraine has rejected Russia's claims to have taken Soledar and insisted on Saturday that its forces were battling to hold it, but officials acknowledged the situation was difficult, with street fighting raging and Russian forces advancing from various directions. Russian President Vladimir Putin heralded Russia's latest battlefield gains in remarks on Sunday. Russia last week announced the latest shakeup to its military command, putting Valery Gerasimov, chief of the general staff, in day-to-day charge of the military campaign. Saturday's missile strikes, the largest Russian attacks so far in 2023, suggest Russia will continue with its strategy of attempting to target Ukraine's energy and infrastructure networks. Russian President Vladimir Putin said that the military operation in Ukraine had gained positive momentum and that he hoped his soldiers would deliver more wins after Russia claimed control of the eastern Ukrainian salt mining town of Soledar. Putin now casts the war in Ukraine as an existential battle with an aggressive and arrogant West, and has said that Russia will use all available means to protect itself and its people against any aggressor. The United States and its allies have condemned Russia's invasion of Ukraine as an imperial land grab, while Ukraine has vowed to fight until the last Russian soldier is ejected from its territory. The $2.1 trillion economy is forecast by the Russian government to contract by 0.8% in 2023. Russia's 2023 budget is based on a Urals blend price of around $70.1 a barrel, though Russia's main blend is currently trading at below $50 a barrel.